Good day, I'm Joe Pucciarelli, and thank you for inviting me to your event. In my role at IDC, I'm a research leader that focuses on the unique challenges confronting CIOs and IT leaders worldwide. In today's session, I will share with you survey data from CIOs and IT directors here in Portugal, the US, and worldwide. It highlights the many challenges IT leaders are facing and how they are rising to those challenges. Finally, I will share with you some specific recommendations on how you, as an IT director or CIO, can better lead your team. The pandemic has not impacted IT organizations equally. We have many organizations that have responded to those organizations in a different way. While many organizations are struggling, others have reacted swiftly and seized new opportunities. La-Z-Boy, a worldwide furniture company and manufacturer, pivoted from at-home design services to virtual room design services. At Micron Technology, a semiconductor manufacturing company, their finance department began managing their cash balances using an artificial intelligence application to maximize interest revenue. And finally, Amazon has apparently adopted an algorithm to track the performance of some of their delivery personnel, going so far as to allow the AIs to actually dismiss employees via a text message. Many of you are thinking right now, our organization would never delegate personnel matters to an AI. Well, that may be the case, but perhaps a supplier or a customer of your company may do these things. Your company's leadership should be aware of what Micron Technology is doing to optimize cash management, because finance teams tend to be very conservative about their adoption of new technology. The real point here is that despite our crazy world, the innovation meter keeps getting advanced, and your team needs to continue to monitor carefully the developments of competitors and of other industries. My presentation today is divided into 3 segments. First, I will share with you the results of a survey of CIOs and IT directors in Portugal to show you and to share with you what we've told the US about the situation. Next, we will look at the most significant challenges confronting CIOs, both in Portugal and worldwide. That issue is IT and business alignment and the challenges we're facing. Finally, we'll look to the horizon to see what the future holds and what we might do about that. So let's get started by sharing with you what you told IDC about your situation. Since the beginning of the pandemic, IDC has regularly surveyed business and IT leaders about their situation. With each survey, we asked leaders, what was their strategy? How were they coping? What were they doing? Was their organization struggling to survive? Well, I've labeled this on the chart as business continuity. In August, 15% of CIOs in Portugal report that this is what their organization was struggling with. Was their organization striving to reduce expenses? In August, 10% reported that that was their primary focus. 38% of leaders in Portugal explained that they were making investments to cope with the current situation and improve their business resiliency. And another 12% had begun to move past the pandemic and were making targeted investments to expand their business. Finally, 25% report that they were largely through the pandemic and were on the road to future success, what IDC calls future enterprise. Now, this chart has the same data as the previous chart from the August survey of leaders from Portugal, but I've added data from a survey of 854 IT leaders worldwide. Those are shown in blue. What we see in the chart, we may want to look at the two columns on the far right. Companies making targeted investments and companies that have progressed to future enterprise. Here in Portugal, we see 37% of the companies, 12% plus 25%, have moved beyond the pandemic. Worldwide, 53% of the companies, 35% plus 18%, have reported they've moved past the pandemic. This gives you some sense of how Portugal compares with other organizations worldwide. That is, that Portugal is not as advanced in recovering from the pandemic at this point in the process. Next, we asked what were the top 5 business priorities for your organization in 2021. I've highlighted in green, and you can see examples of improving efficiency, improving customer service, and innovating in products and services. Now, there are no correct or incorrect answers here. The point of these findings is to share with you what other organizations are focused upon. The other major point for you to consider as a business leader is that there are many, many priorities on your list. If you are feeling a bit overwhelmed, there's a good reason. By the way, these findings are very close to what we see with IT leaders worldwide. Their top priorities are virtually the same as what we are seeing in Portugal. So that should give you some solace that you're not facing and struggling with these challenges by yourself. So we've told you've told IDC what your organization's priorities are. Now, what about the IT priorities? Here we asked you how you are planning to spend your IT resources. We've categorized that based on hardware, software, services, or communication. I've circled the largest result by category. As you can tell by looking quickly at the blue segments on the chart, blue indicating an increase, a modest increase of from 1% to 10%, that there's a lot of increases going on in many organizations. More importantly, when you look at the second category, which is software, you can see that the largest percentage of organizations are actually planning to increase their spending on software. Again, this is consistent with what we are seeing worldwide. What's happening in Portugal is generally consistent with what other organizations are doing. What they're doing is they're investing in new software to achieve the goals we discussed a moment ago. They're working on improving efficiency, improving customer service, innovating with new products and services. And to do all that, they need new software to manage those processes. In my final chart, I'm sharing with you IT spending from business leaders in Portugal. Again, you see a very long list of priorities. At the top in green, you see many strategic priorities, including ensuring business continuity, new digital capabilities, cybersecurity, and innovation. At the bottom of the list, you see spending categories that are more directly related to IT. In other words, by looking at these priorities, you seem well aligned with how you are helping your business and balancing those priorities with what you must do to improve IT. Overall, it's very encouraging that the most of the spending priorities are at the top of the list and are generally aligned with the business priorities. Let's move to the next segment and talk more about business and IT alignment. On this chart, I've listed the same top 5 business priorities from the previous page. Again, you can see the organizations are focused on improving efficiency, customer services, product innovation, and so on. On the right-hand side of the chart, when you build the slide, you will see that I've listed the top spending priorities from IT. Now let's pause for a moment and reflect on the top 5 priorities for the business, which is on the left, versus the top 5 spending priorities for IT, which is on the right. The question I ask you to ask yourself, if you were the managing director of your organization and your priorities were those that were on the left-hand side of the chart, would you be happy if your IT director focused on those items on the right-hand side? Again, there is not a right or wrong answer to these questions. This is a matter of judgment. As we move through this situation, this is the question we must ask ourselves every day. Are we focused on the right priorities? We're operating in a territory that is unknown. We have unique challenges. We have tremendous volatility that we're dealing with. And as business and IT leaders, what we have to do is make sure that we are focused on the priorities in spite of all the changes and challenges that our organization is facing. I'd like to share another interesting chart that I thought was very interesting. It highlights survey data from 116 US-based CIOs and IT directors. I asked them, what post-pandemic market conditions and challenges is your organization currently coping with? I received an answer that I did not expect. If you look at the chart, it's not hard to tell that they reported that almost everything was more difficult. In some cases, things were a lot more difficult. Of course, when you look at the list, their answers make sense. Things are much more difficult. But you know what I think? I think that when I surveyed them, what I captured was their sense of personal fatigue, their frustration with all the things that are going on around them, and the fact that they're weary of this pandemic and all of the situations it's thrust upon them and their organizations. This is not what I set out to learn about them, but I think this is what they're saying. I think this is what you may be feeling. For us as leaders, we need to be alert how our fatigue may shape how we interact with our teams and our business colleagues. Hopefully now that when you're back from summer holiday, you don't feel that everything is harder for you too. Let's take a moment and spend some time and look to the future and perhaps plan what our next best steps can be. Again, I'm sharing data from the US, but we are seeing similar findings worldwide. We asked IT leaders how their role had changed since the pandemic had begun. Do you know what they told us? 74% said their jobs had become much more interesting. Everyone except the 26% in red, which is the third bar, said that they were doing new things. They were presenting to the board of directors. They were working more directly with the CEO or the managing directors. They were dealing more with customers or suppliers. They were dealing with universities to recruit people. So, ladies and gentlemen, we may be busy, we may be fatigued, but our contributions to our organizations have never been more important. And they are giving us an opportunity as individuals to demonstrate how the technology that we lead is so helpful for the organization and how it can make such a significant difference in people's lives. We asked those same US-based CIOs and IT directors, how would they describe their roles? Again, what they told us surprised us. It wasn't what we expected. I ask you to look at the top of the page. They now describe themselves as the organization's technology leader, not the IT director, but their organization's technology leader. They describe themselves as innovators and strategic advisors and transformation leaders and optimizers. These are all very important management roles. When we asked the question in the past, this very same question, what CIOs and IT leaders told us was that their role was to help the organization save money with IT. Now, look at where savings is ranked. It's in red at the very bottom of the page, the very lowest category. The role of CIOs and IT directors is changing, and it is allowing us to make more important contributions to our organizations, to think in terms of strategic contribution, to think in terms of helping the organization operate, not just to save money. Saving money is important, but there are other opportunities that IT can do that are even more important and more impactful. Our time today is short, so this is my next to last slide. Earlier this month, IDC released a new IT maturity model. We call it Future IT. This model enables IT leaders to assess their organization and compare themselves to 150 other IT organizations. These percentages you see at the top of the page is how most organizations will be investing to improve and change their organizations. So the top priorities to transform IT in the next 12 months, 32% said new IT products and services on the left-hand side. 23% were talking about the ability to provide new intelligence and new capabilities, new analytics. 19% are making investments in digital infrastructure. 14% are investing in leadership and governance, and 12% are focusing on improving their cybersecurity. Now, what we are doing at IDC is we are going to provide you access to this model for the next couple of months. There's a link, a URL at the bottom of the page. It's in that blue bar, and it allows you to click on it. And once you click on it, it takes you to that online assessment, and it gives you the ability to see how your organization compares to the average of the organizations that we surveyed worldwide. Unfortunately, I will tell you in advance that this model and the self-assessment is only available in English. So my apologies, we don't have a Portuguese version available at this time. Nevertheless, if you can take this survey, this assessment, it will provide you with a report on your organization and a comparison to how you compare with other organizations in the world. Well, unfortunately, our time has come to a close. I'd like to share with you some final thoughts on our session today. So please let me allow you to take you through some of those thoughts. First, let's talk about people. As you consider your role, think of yourself as the organization's technology leader, not the IT director. That's what organizations are seeking. They're seeking guidance and help with their technology models. In terms of process, how can you help the organization be agile and flexible? How do you empower people and deliver a hybrid experience and support hybrid work environments? In terms of technology, are you providing a modern and resilient platform? Is it able to withstand shocks and the volatility of our crazy world? Finally, are you helping your business by providing the data that's pervasive? And are you driving a business model that's based on intellectual property? So, ladies and gentlemen, my final thought is that post-pandemic, we are building and being challenged to deliver what the next generation of IT is, what we at IDC called future IT. Now, we believe that that's going to be job one. Now, it's unclear what the future holds for us. The one thing we do know is it will have some surprises. Nevertheless, this is a very, very encouraging story. What we're seeing is that IT organizations are rising to the challenge, that organizations are beginning to embrace these new digital technologies and using them to create differentiation in the market, and that the leadership of these organizations worldwide is increasingly reaching out to their IT professionals, to their IT leaders, to help guide the business strategies and the very operation of the organization. My only regret today is that I didn't have the ability to spend time with you face to face, talking about these challenges and helping you with the situations that you're facing locally. Please accept my best wishes and every effort for success in the balance of 2021 and beyond. Thank you. It's been my pleasure to work with you today.